Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ET Stand podcast, a Cronulla Sharks fans podcast that lets its talking do the football. Rob from the On the Ranch North Queensland Cowboys fans podcast is joining us for what we call an opposition fan preview to give us the rundown on what we might want to know as the Sharkies take on the 8th placed and kind of informed North Queensland Cowboys. Do hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, first time looking at content on YouTube with us. Give us a rating on Spotify or just a like on Facebook. Rob, mate, good to see you.
G'day, Boldo. Thanks for having us on the show.
I'll cue down the Sharkies music for you there, so you don't have to listen to the Sharks theme.
That's fine.
How good is your background? We were chatting about this off the show. It's
the old logo didn't come through either. Didn't quite come through, but there's a logo here as well, which is a copy of the show.
Oh, right. So if I jump out of the podcast, hold on, if I remove myself, everyone will be able to see it. Hold on, I'll do that for a second.
It's no dramas at all. That's what'll appear on the background of our show for this week. That'll be the logo on the back of the audio one, and we'll probably have it on the back of the YouTube segment as well. So, yeah, I throw together one of these every week. Just bit of fun. Putting the other team on there. I think we did one the other week when we beat the Panthers with a bloodied Panther laying on the ground and the Cowboys standing over top of him as well. So,
for any Sharks fans out there, Rob does a podcast goes live Tuesday nights, post kind of similar time as ours. Is that right, Rob?
Yeah. So we've got a Patreon exclusive little group that we release to on Tuesday nights, and they get a little bit of extra banter that we have pre-show. And then our main show goes live on Wednesday mornings, which is about an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what's going on. Chat about the boys. If we get a guest on or like a player, we had I heard we have the other week. Lachlan Coote actually joined us for a chat the other week, and yeah, so that tends to go a bit longer because we tend to open the mics for them, and sometimes some of them can talk. So yeah, we just let them go because people want to hear them talk, not us. So it's probably fair enough. All right. Well, any Sharks fans, look, Rob and his bunch of mates, much similar to the ET Stand podcast, will give their view on the Sharks versus the Cowboys match. And so if you want to be as learned as you possibly can going into that match, I do implore you. It's a good, fun podcast. They're a good bunch of fellas, probably a little bit funnier than even the ET Stand guys. So, well, let's get into it, mate. A lot has happened since the Sharkies thumped the Cowboys 42-6. I rewatched those highlights just today. That seems an eternity ago. I do not think this match is going to be quite so easy for the Sharkies. What's happened what's the story of the Cowboys since then? She's a little more water under the bridge, hasn't there? Since then, what was that? That was back in April.
Round 7.
42-6, yeah. Look, the Cowboys' defense has improved a little bit in the last couple of weeks. So I don't know if it'll be quite the blowout that we see there, although who knows? The Sharks are a bit of a bogey side for the Cowboys. I was looking at the stats, and I've actually got them up in front of me here.
Not bad,
I think we've managed to win. No, we've managed to win 5 games in the last 10 years against you guys. Most notably, I think 3 of those are in final.
11 of the last 12 for the Sharkies.
Yeah.
We obviously famously lost the 2022 qualifying final at PointsBet to that mammoth Valentine Holmes field goal from 40-plus meters. And we were dudded in that match. That was the Connor Tracy sin bin.
Yes. Well, look, I'm not going to complain, but
we could talk about 7th tackle tries.
I don't want to bring up old news. Look, I think you guys got dudded a tackle a couple of weeks ago, didn't you? It was a 4-tackle or something, and it robbed you of a try. So look, what goes around comes around. It might take 10 years, but you get there in the end, don't you? It's all a balance. That's rugby league. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But
so what's happened since the round 7 match, mate?
Look, there's like I say, we had a few injuries to start the season, and look, the team just wasn't gelling. Probably a bit of a hangover from last year. They just weren't gelling the way they were the year before, obviously. But, there's been a bit of a shuffle around with the team. Jason Taumalolo wasn't going great guns. I think he's probably better in the last week or two, or last 2 to 3 weeks, really, not counting the bye, obviously. He had a few of those issues with the knees. And
he hasn't been playing as much, has he?
So no. We had reduced minutes at the start of the season and that sort of thing. And I think that's probably where we were getting those floggings 42-6. revisit that again. But
Sorry,
I think,
mate.
he had a bit of go forward on the weekend just gone that, I think he had a big hand in winning that game for us on the weekend. So, yeah, it's go forward like that. And, there's a lot of other underrated players who are just playing a little bit better now. Holding onto the ball is helping a whole lot better too. So
It is the simpleness of rugby league, isn't it? If I bring the team list up here, we put you guys in yellow because we're obviously blue as well.
Right, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, well, I guess it is here. Yeah, who in this team? So I don't know much about these centres. Tell me about them.
So Viliami Valet has been fairly strong for us ever since sort of Zach Laybutt had a bit of an injury at the start of the season. Again, another one of those injury issues. So he's been pretty solid, although he's a bit inexperienced. So if you sit and watch a live game, you'll see him sometimes he'll jam in a bit quick, and he cops a bit of a flogging from Kyle Felt on the wing there. Just the old fella telling him what he should and shouldn't be doing. But he's getting better as time goes on, and he's defending a lot better now than what he was when he first started with us earlier this year. So, and his attack.
Is he on the right side or left side?
Now you got me thinking. What's my right and my left? He plays just inside Kyle Felt. So, yeah, he's right side, right side in attack, and left. Your left, our right. So, yeah, they he gets named at 4, but he plays at 3. Yeah.
Got it. So he's going to have Kale Iro and Ronnie running at him.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Look, I have no dramas with that. Felty's a great defender. So, it's just that's not too much of an issue on that side. Jackson Purdue, he's come out and just been a bit of a firecracker on that wing there on the left side. But you'll probably see the return of Murray Talangi this week. So Jackson Purdue might end up back on the bench. Murray Talangi he's had a hamstring injury, and he should be back this week, but they're just sort of giving him right up until the game.
And has he been named as 18th or anything like that?
18th or 22nd or something like that. So he's somewhere in the extended bench there. Yeah,
you got to respect Kyle Felt. He's just a beast, isn't he?
Oh, 100%, and a great bloke all around. I'll run into him we've had him on the show a couple of times now, probably 3 or 4 times. And, he's always happy to come on. He's got a young family now, so it's a bit harder to get him now. But I've run into him a couple of times just, like at the local Coles or Woolies or whatever, and he's happy to just have a chat with you like you've been best mates forever. And I've got to get around to his place one of these days and get into his slow-cooked meats, because he's very much into those. And the old brisket comes out looking pretty good sometimes.
Well, that does sound pretty good. So interesting that the Cowboys team, you've got Kyle Felt, Taumalolo, and Granville was also in the premiership winning team, wasn't he? So you've still got
right. Yep, from 2015. So
they're out. 2015, and you have more Sharks from the 2016 team than the Sharks have got.
Yeah, so that's right.
Have 2, and we have none. That's remarkable that those guys have had that longevity.
There's a bit of experience there, that's for sure. It doesn't hurt. It's a shame we can't translate it into wins against Cronulla, and like I say, in the last 10 years, but that's fine. We'll take it. It's all good. Yeah, Chad's been going great guns, and obviously this is his last season. He's off to the Roosters next year, but and Val, well, a bit out of form earlier in the year, but he's coming good at the right time. So
why have you switched Val to the wing rather than centers?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if he'll actually play on the wing. Like I say, if Murray Talangi ends up actually out there, you'll see Val switch back into centers. So I wouldn't read too much into the actual numbers that you see in that team list, but
right.
Toddy Payton has a habit of shaking up that team list sort of an hour out from the game anyway. So you might even see it attention and forward rotation to be a bit different to what it looks there.
How are you feeling about the Chad signing for the Roosters and moving on from the Cowboys? Was that welcomed, or were you bummed?
Well, look, he's obviously been great for the Cowboys in 2022. Last year and this year, it's no reflection on him. It's the whole team that's been having issues, and your halfback can only do so much if your forwards aren't giving you your go forward. And I think that's sort of let him down a bit. His kicking game's probably suffered a little bit as a result, whether that's pressure on there or whatnot. But he can be accurate when he needs to be, but there's just sometimes it doesn't feel like it just feels like he's putting it up in the air and hoping for the best. So No, look, he's like I say, he's been a great servant for the Cowboys, and it's sort of, we knew he was going anyway. He had a 3-year contract originally. We've got a few young guys waiting in the wings to jump on in that place. You know, you've got Clifford, who is killing it in Queensland Cup. I know it's a whole different league, really, but you know, he can slot in there, and in fact, he did during Origin, or actually, he slotted into 6, I should say, and killed it. So we've got no issues there. Like I say, we've got a few young fellas. Jackson Purdue is actually a half. He's not really a winger or a center. So Purdue could actually slot potentially into 6 or 7 and shift in and around as required. And we've got young Tom Duffy coming through in the Queensland Cup as well. So there's plenty of stocks there waiting in the wings. I don't know that we'll sign anyone else to slot into that spot. But yeah, like we say, it's we kind of expected that he would probably move on at the end of this season, and that appears to be the case, even though he's bought a house here in one of the swanky suburbs in Townsville. But I'm sure he'll hang on to that for investment purposes or whatnot. I won't go into the tax repercussions, but yeah.
Yeah, who knows? It's an interesting, well, it's a strong looking bench with McLean, Taumalolo, Nanai, and Cotter. These are some pretty big name forwards. Were you expecting the Cowboys forward pack to get on top of us?
Yeah, like I say, Justin Taumalolo has come back. He's hitting his strides a lot better now. I think he's got his knee issues sorted out. So he's starting to put on the meters and post-contact meters more than anything. A little bit better now than he previously was. You've got Griffin Neem as well, who he can run a ball hard and bend the line. He hit the line sometimes last week, and I swear there was going to be an injury or something come out of it. He hit pretty hard, and he has no fear, just no fear whatsoever. So he's one to look out for, and I think coming off the bench helps him quite a bit as well. Jordan McLean is one to look out for. I like him a lot. He's got a very fast play the ball speed. Very rarely you put him down on his back or get him down on the ground at all. A lot of the times you'll have 3 or 4 players hanging off him and he's still standing. So he is very good at getting that quick play the ball and giving Reece Robson the chance to get out quick from dummy half.
The bench makeup. So are they all forwards, or what's the makeup of them? Are they middles, or what are they?
A little bit of everything. Sam and Harrison, McIntyre and Edwards can play, edge forwards, or they can fill in dummy half or halves if required. I think Sam McIntyre filled in for a little bit there during the Origin period, definitely at hooker, and I think he slotted in briefly at either 6 or 7. I can't remember. He was certainly acting in some areas, so he's pretty versatile. Harrison Edwards is fairly versatile as well, so they're more utility benches, those that McIntyre and Edwards, and Finney Fuiaki's an unreal edge forward, and Griffin Neem can fill in anywhere at the front. So it is fairly front heavy, but like I say, they could fill in anywhere, even centers if worst case something were to happen somewhere around there.
If you look at the Sharks team, our bench is 3 big boppers in Hazelton, Rudolph, and Hamlin Ueli, and then you could say that Sifa Talakai is. Well, he has played centre, and there's a big discussion point that goes on the Sharks ET Stand podcast of what is Talakai's best position. But that is like the biggest bench that you're probably going to see in rugby league circles in general. So if the Sharks are coming in with a bigger team, how do you think the Cowboys react to that?
Well, Cowboys have got that strike power sort of across the park with Tom Dearden. He can, once the forwards are a little bit tired, they've got a little bit of that fatigue. That's when you see Tom Dearden come into play, as well as Scotty Drinkwater, who roam around and look for an opportunity. But as we saw in Origin, as we saw last week against the Bulldogs, Tom Dearden, he can break a tackle if you don't get around his legs and break away very, very quickly. And then you've got, again, the likes of Jackson Purdue, who can chase that through and take an offload. Again, Val Holmes, same sort of thing. So not too worried about a big coming up against a big bench. I think probably having the mobility that we've got and the extra strike power with those, sort of edge players is probably helpful for us. And actually, and Jeremiah Nanai might be one to watch against those guys, in the air. I don't know what Toby Rudolph's probably not too bad. But the other guys, I'm not sure what they're like when there's a bit of a high ball coming at them. So maybe we'll
I
see a few bombs coming their way.
I can't imagine Hamlin Ueli jumping too high. I do. Well, look, who was it? Was it Drinkwater or Dearden got that funny try where there was a bit of an obstruction in that 2022 finals match? I think it was Drinkwater. Drinkwater scooted through and there was a borderline obstruction. And I remember thinking it was a little bit against the run of the play and got you guys back in it. He has got good pace. So him and Dearden are probably a worry. Who else should the Sharkies be looking out for? The Chad doesn't worry me at all.
No. Chad will stay back and organise everybody and put in the kicks where he needs to put them. He's not too much of a running player. He will occasionally run it, but not enough to be too much of a threat, I wouldn't think, from an opposition point of view. I think Val Holmes, Scotty Drinkwater, Reece Robson, and even Jackson Purdue, and of course Tommy Dearden. They're probably the ones to watch out for, which is that's not the nicest when you got to watch about 5 or 6 players for the.
It's a pretty good team, mate.
It's a matter of gelling and hanging onto the ball. That's the hardest. That's the thing that's been crueling us, apart from the last 2 weeks, is hanging onto the ball and completing sets. So we did that all right last week. A few little mistakes that let the Bulldogs back in, but I can't knock us too much. The Bulldogs are a good team, so it was good to beat them. So,
the Bulldogs beat the Sharkies, didn't they? Buddy Matt Burton.
They did.
Did Burton have a bad kicking night against you guys?
No, he wasn't too bad at all. He was roosting them up as high as ever and swirling around in the breeze. But it's just we got a few good kick defusal guys. A lot of them went to Kyle Felt actually, and he's very good under a high ball.
He's very good. He's very good. Who scares you from the Sharkies?
Yeah, look, Mulatalo is always a threat. I don't mind Katoa and Ramian actually. That could be interesting. Britton Nakora is always threatening, and punching a hole through the middle of us is not that hard to do in the short history. So again, it's the big guys. If they can get that go forward going and tire out our forwards, then you might have a bit of an advantage with having that bigger bench. But and then you can punch around with those guys sort of on the edges there, with, like I say, Nakora, Teague Wilton as well.
Nakora and Wilton, certainly the Sharks backline play for them for their line running, which is why you see Kaeliro often not and Ramian not get as much ball as you would like. Obviously, look, the bad record of the Cowboys against the Sharks, you think that plays a role?
I take each game as it comes. It's pretty disheartening to look at it and see all these L's against the Cowboys.
Are we not the rock to your scissors though? Like, is it as to some teams just beat other teams, Rob? Like,
yeah, and I think that's all it is in this case. It's just the Sharks for some reason have got it against the Cowboys, and have for a long time. So I think this game will be a lot closer than what the odds are showing. I think Cowboys are going into it slight favourites, but I think it's going to be another close one. Couple of points in it at most, maybe even golden. I don't want to say golden point. I don't want to go down that path.
Well, the Sharks don't do too well in golden point when we've had Nico, but Daniel Atkinson is one to look out for. So, and he's a Queensland boy actually. When you think the Sharks, what is like? I always think of, for me, it's the disastrous Cowboys 39-0 loss up in Townsville. When you think of, oh damn it, we're playing the Sharks. What are just the tragic, harrowing moments that you can recall? You're like, damn those Sharks. What do you remember?
Geez, it's definitely that. Well, for me, it's got to be that 7 tackle set. That one changed. Well, it didn't just change that night; it changed the game. It literally changed the game. We've got 7 tackle sets for kicking it dead now, and I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't particularly like it, but that's not a Shark. That wasn't Sharks' fault.
Game.
It was.
It was so good.
It wasn't Sharks' fault, and I lay no blame on the Sharks in particular for that. But it's one of those things where the ref makes a mistake and it ruins you for a little while. But aside from that, just over the years, the likes. I don't want to bring him up, but Gallen I was never a fan. So
you weren't a fan of Gallen.
No, definitely, and that's obviously the Queenslander coming out in me as well. But is
he the most hated New South Wales player over the last 20 years, Paul Gallen?
Oh, I don't know about the last 20 years. Certainly in the last Actually, you might be right. Yeah, you might be right. He's definitely up there.
My brother's mother-in-law is a staunch Queensland fan. And when she worked out that her daughter was marrying my brother, who's obviously a Sharks fan as well, she was just, oh no, and just having to put up with her grandchildren just loving Paul Gallen is just the bane of her poor existence. Sorry, Mum Chamber, if you ever watch this, but yeah, Paul Gallen, yeah, he's a goodie. And then by the time 2016 rolls around, post premiership year for you guys, and that defeat in the grand final qualifier, you guys were a bit. You were just a bit busted by the time, because who'd you play? I can't remember who was it the week that you played. Did you knock the Broncos out the week before? You knocked someone out the week before in week 2, and it was a really tough match.
Yeah, you're right. And they were having put the effort in from the year before to go back to back. I mean, we know how hard the competition is to go back to back. Panthers notwithstanding, but back then it was probably a lot harder back then to go back to back, I should say. And a bit of heartbreak, but to make it as far as we did is definitely not a bad thing, of course. And
sometimes the energy is just with you in those matches, though, isn't it?
And in the end, you want to be beaten by the best. And that year we were beaten by the premiers. So that's how I look at it anyway. So I'm more than happy to be beaten by the premiers.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, then we can talk and then if we talked at the 2017 finals match, there was that when Cowboys went on that great run to get to the grand final. It was a bullshit strip against the Sharks that got you guys back in the game before the Sharks absolutely blew it. So I think we can call it in the finals. Maybe we could call it a little bit equal.
It's up there. Yeah. No, that was a dream run in 2017. So to get that far was definitely got to the grand final. So I can't complain about that. And I don't think any team was beating the Storm that year. They were just unbeatable, pretty much across the board.
They were fired up from losing to the Sharks the previous year, and they'd had Billy Slater return, which makes a big difference for them. So, mate, if the Cowboys are going to make the top 8, which I think is likely, what's going to have to happen for them to make the top 8?
I think out of the games that are left, and what's there, 6 or 7 games, I think they've got to win 4 of them. So I had a quick look at the ladder predictor today, and I don't see it to be too much of an issue. And I was trying to be as conservative as possible without wearing the blue and the grey glasses. But, there's a lot of games there that the Cowboys should win and should win easy. This one isn't one of them, by the way, against the Sharks. But I think some of the others are a lot easier. It's a good home run for the Cowboys. I think we got one more away game for the rest of the season.
That does help, doesn't it?
Yeah, so all of our away games were stacked at the start of the season, and we've had our buys now, and we've got one more, so that's definitely going to help. I think some of the other matchups tend to keep some of the teams under the out of the 8. So just depends on
playing each other a lot more, or
a little bit of that from what I can tell. And I'm kind of hoping teams like the Broncos don't go well, because they'll end up knocking us out. If they can put on a string, they might gather enough points to keep us out of the 8. But
they look good last week. Adam Reynolds is their key guy. You can't win without your star halfback, can you?
Well, it's only a matter of time till he breaks a leg again. So I've got a thing for thing against the Broncos for obvious reasons. But like I say, probably 4 out of the last 6 or so games we need to win. So it's definitely possible. It's all at home, so that's handy.
All right, fair enough. What else anything else the Sharkies fans should know? As a learned Cowboys fan yourself, what else might we want to know going into this match?
Look, I just go into it with an open mind. Just watch out for those field goals. There could be a sneaky one before halftime. We have a tendency to try and slot one of those just at halftime, so you could see something like that. And keep an eye on Scotty Drinkwater in defence. He's very. It's a bit hard to do on TV, but if you happen to be at the game, you can see he does a lot of organisation off the ball. So he's very key at the back of the pack there.
Well, Sharks are missing Will Kennedy as well, so that means we're missing 2 of our real key attacking outlets. So you'd have to think the Cowboys can get the job done against the Sharkies, surely.
Look, I'm going to tip us, and I'm known on our podcast to tip against the Cowboys if I think we're not going to win, and I am going to tip us this week. I'm going to try and ignore that win-loss record. Yeah, but like I say, I think it'll be a pretty close game. Anywhere between 2 and 4 points probably total between the teams. Despite having no Will Kennedy, that goes good for us. I think he was going to be a bit of a problem, but yeah, I think we'll be right without him.
All right. Well, thank you, Rob, for coming in and dropping in for this opposition fan preview. I will just say to you lastly, the West Tigers, they're still bitter about that match. I was on the West Live podcast the other week. Those guys are still spewing about that.
Excellent. Good. That's good. I think we play them again sometime in the next couple of weeks, so we might have to have a chat to them in the lead up.
I reckon you should go on their podcast. It'd be absolutely hilarious. They're still angry and bitter, but
good. That's the way we like.
What can you say? All right. Well, look, that was the opposition fan preview. Rob is tipping a 4-point victory for the Cowboys. As I have done, I am tipping an 8-point victory for the Cowboys. I think the Sharks will keep it close and maybe give them some nervousness. But I just think without Kennedy and without Nico, I think the Cowboys are going to be motivated post-Origin, which is going to make it pretty hard for our Sharkies to win. But we're certainly going to be in it. Please do hit the like and subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the ET Stand podcast. And if you want to check out some Cowboys content and preview, do jump on Rob's channel on the ranch. There it is, right there. You're a gentleman, Rob. Thanks for coming in. We'll hit the farewell music, and we'll see you guys on the ET Stand next time.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.